Hello and welcome to Detroit Public Television's Candidate Conversations. I'm Jerome Vaughn.
And I'm Vicki Thomas. These conversations are part of Detroit Public TV's My Vote initiative, a program that has proven to be instrumental in helping Detroit voters learn more about the candidates running for office. Today, we will hear from the candidates in the 4th District, Andre Spivey and Bettie Cook-Scott.
The format will be simple. Questions will be asked of each candidate, and each candidate will have about a minute to answer. At the end of our conversation, you'll have 30 seconds to address voters.
And remember, all of these conversations can be found on the myvote.org website. So let's begin our District 4 conversation with a brief introduction. Mr. Andre Spivey.
Hello, I'm Andre Spivey, a member of the Detroit City Council, as an incumbent running for re-election to the City Council in District 4, and I look forward to finishing out this wonderful general campaign. I'm here to serve the citizens of the City of Detroit. I had some goals that I set, some I met, others I've yet to be completed, and I look forward to continue serving our people in the great city of Detroit.
And now Bettie Cook-Scott.
Hi, I'm Bettie Cook-Scott, your former state representative for part of District 4. I have a record. I think that I'm the only candidate in this race who have tools and skills to be replicated on the City Council. I am a person who is responsible, I'm a person who's accountable, and some say I am a survivor. I want to be your next City Council person from District 4. Again, Bettie Cook-Scott has the tools, the skills, and the education, and the background to deliver for District 4. Thank you.
All right, welcome to the both of you.
Thank you.
What do you think is the biggest challenge facing the city of Detroit, and how will you work to fix it? Ms. Scott?
Well, there are many challenges facing the city of Detroit. Most of the citizens know, number one, is this bankruptcy. The city of Detroit technically has filed bankruptcy, but we know that that's not true because only the elected officials and the mayor can officially file bankruptcy. And being that it's bankruptcy, that means that we've mismanaged our funds for the city. And I think the previous administration and this administration that's in has borrowed too much money. Before trying to create some other revenue sources, they borrowed. And this present city council, along with the other city council, has not balanced 3 budgets.
Mr. Spivey?
I would say the biggest challenge are the city's finances. We cannot operate a city unless we have our finances on an even keel. And once those finances are taken care of, we can provide more services, put more money toward public safety, public lighting, and other things of that sort. Yes, the cities had to borrow money, but every city in this country borrows money. There's nothing against borrowing money. We had previous administration and council borrow even more money than this present council, and there were times we borrowed money this time just to make the city be afloat and to not have payless paydays. So there's nothing against borrowing money, but I think that going forward, working with our new mayor and with our governor, the state of Michigan, particularly our governor, and making sure that we find ourselves not here again, because we do have cities that have gone into bankruptcy or financial receivership, and now they're back in it one more time. So you don't want Detroit to be there again. And so making sure that we look at our finances very clearly. And this council, present council here, was the only council in recent history to cut more than the mayor each time we had a budget. So we were fiscally responsible on the city council.
All right, and as the incumbent here, tell me, what was your position on the consent agreement which led to the appointment of the emergency manager? And if you had a chance to do it all over again today, would you vote the same way?
Well, when the vote came for the consent agreement, I did vote against the consent agreement. I had issues that I was not comfortable with in voting. As a council member, I was at the table when it was crafted. But in the end, I just could not vote for one reason. We had our unions that came to the table, negotiating table, and the contracts were never brought to us for council to vote. I didn't see a good sunset clause to get out of this consent agreement. And frankly, I just didn't like the way the council would not have any initiative to begin projects. And I had no confidence in some of the administration to carry out those projects. And eventually now we have an emergency manager, which is the end game of the consent agreement. So if it came again today, I probably would not vote for it again. I was not confident in that it would get us out. But I also think the state did not give the city enough time to go through the consent agreement. 1 year was not enough time to actually go through and see if it can be worked out.
And Betty Cook Scott, tell me, you're not the incumbent. He is your challenger is. So tell the voters what makes you uniquely qualified to be a member of City Council.
Oh, I wanted to say something about the consent decree, but I'll put it in my
Oh, no, you can rebut that first, and then you can tackle my question.
Okay, although the present city council person did not vote for the consent decree all the way up to that vote, and he can tell you, we were screaming in the public saying for them not to vote for that consent decree. I was there when Andy Dillon brought in this advisory council. We screamed that we didn't need a project manager, we didn't need a project manager, we did not need them to go into a consent decree. He was complicit, Mr. Spivey was complicit in bringing that machine to fruition, but at the last minute, he took a vote for the public, and we thank him for that.
All right. You
Now-
want
But yeah,
30 seconds.
I think there's some dates wrong here. Nothing happened until after it was voted on. And I will say what I said before. After it was voted upon, I did say I would not be an obstructionist. Once it's voted, no sense fighting, but moving the city forward. And at this point where we are right now, we find ourselves filing for bankruptcy as a result of a consent agreement and an emergency manager. What's on the other side of Detroit? No sense going back and recreating the wheel. That's water under the bridge. But moving forward and saying, how can we have a better Detroit on the other side of bankruptcy where we are right now?
All right, and now the question to you was, what makes you uniquely qualified to be a member of City Council, with the emphasis on uniquely qualified?
Unlike my opponent, I am very uniquely qualified. I taught school for 5 years as a substitute teacher. I also was a police person, worked my way up from a patrolman to be a sergeant on the list to become a lieutenant. I was a legislator. I wrote bills. I had bills enacted into law for the entire state of Michigan and not just for the city of Detroit. I have relationships with the school board and the teachers and the administrator. I have an integral relationship with the legislators. There are at least 15 of them who are still there who will listen to me as a city council person. I had a bill passed with 100% participation in the House of Representatives. That's 105 people. I also have a relationship with my community. I've lived there for 25 years, unlike my opponent. That's what the charter said. They wanted you to live and have a everlasting, seamless relationship with your community. Betty Cook Scott has all of that.
Crime has long been one of the top concerns of Detroit residents. Why has the city had such a hard time grappling with crime? And what are you going to do to fix it? Ms. Scott?
Well, I'm not going to tell you I'm going to do anything personally to fix crime, but again, I'm a former police person. I know the DPOA. I have their endorsement. I have the lieutenants and sergeants endorsement. I have the retirees endorsement. So I have an integral relationship with the police department. I set up standard operating procedures when I worked for the police department, narcotics, community policing. I can name so many. So when I show up and I'm dealing with public safety, I've got skin in the game, plus I have experience and knowledge that I will bring to bear to help us secure a better city, a safer city, a cleaner city. Betty Cook Scott is your police in District 4 who will assist the mayor and whichever mayor there is in securing the neighborhood and making it more effective.
Can you tell us one thing that you, if you're elected to council, might do to help that?
I will work with the chief of police. I will give him my plan that I think will assist us in District 4. I've been in that district for years, securing our businesses, giving our businesses a chance to have a good population of services. I will do that for the businesses within my community, and especially on Warren Avenue. There are 3 of them that I, along with the community, Morningside, East English Village, and Cornerstone, has saved. True Value Hardware is still in the city of Detroit on the east side, not just coming back. They've been there because we've done what we could to assist them. That's policing, community policing. Mr.
Spivey?
I would say that just because one is a police officer does not mean they will always speak for the police. On this previous council, we had a deputy chief, I believe he was, and over internal affairs, and was not a friend of the police department. But I know what my job is as a legislator. I cannot get in a patrol car and fight crime, but what I can do is approve budgets and approve contracts for our police department to help with community policing so that we support our police officers in our district, that our block clubs and community associations, they work together with our policing and talk to our neighbors and let them know that police can't do it alone. We must have our porch lights on. We must be a part of our neighborhood patrols. We must walk our neighborhoods, be the eyes and ears for our police department, and recognize that our men and women in blue are doing a wonderful job. And there are some forces in our city that oftentimes get the best of us, but they come to work every single day and they work hard to protect our citizens. And so what I've done the last 4 years, make sure I approve a responsible budget so they can have all that they need and make sure they're safe with the necessary equipment. And lastly, make sure after 12 years now, we get out of the federal consent decree, they can be a real police department.
I have a rebuttal. The consent decree was brought on while I was on the police department. And that was important because serving our prisoners food that they could ingest was part of my initiative. I had a Muslim or a Muslim person who could not eat the bologna and the bread that touched the bologna. So I was integral in getting our prisoners fed a decent meal when they were in our custody. Also, I'll make sure that utility money, remember that utility money? I'll make sure that it does go back into the police and fire budget as much as possible.
You mean the utility tax?
Utility tax.
Okay.
I said money, but the tax, you're right, Ms. Vicki.
Councilman, tell me about your vision for District 4 and how do you plan to make that vision come true?
Sure. I think that District 4 has the greatest potential in this city to be the catalyst to let the rest of the city know what it can be. But I also want people to know that we cannot be a divisive city. Even though I'll be the councilman of the 4th district, I will still make decisions for the entire city of Detroit. This district has two DPS high schools, one EAA high school. We have some wonderful businesses. We have churches that are active in their communities, and we have some of the finest block clubs and homeowner associations in the city of Detroit. Wonderful parks. Our borders are wonderfully situated. And so if we can begin to galvanize, how do we use the vacant properties that we have? How do we tear down the homes, demolish the homes that are there? How do we galvanize support from every board of the district and come together and not be what some feel the forgotten side of the east side? They're not forgotten. Because they've always had someone supporting and looking after at the table, but now they will have someone in that district, accountability, integrity, and I hope to be that person there and to make sure that what we do in District 4 can be modeled all across the entire city of Detroit.
And Betty Cook Scott, share your vision for District 4.
Well, my vision is that what the community has told me, they want to get rid of blight and abandonment, refurbish our homes, and make sure that the community is walkable and safe. That's one of my vision. For the waterfront, the people in Jefferson Chalmers, we want them to take care of the parks and to bring the businesses back on Jefferson. We've lost two, Wendy's and Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's amazing to me that on a Jefferson that you could lose a business like Kentucky Fried Chicken and also Wendy's. Down a little bit further, I plan to have in the council meetings between the community and the police. That's 1 month. Then I plan to have a meeting between the neighborhood associations and the elected official. And then finally, a meeting between the churches and the youth. We in that triangle will provide a unique experience for our community. And as the council person say, it can be replicated throughout the entire city. Those three triangle areas.
Detroit schools are not under the control of the city council, but it's an important issue, makes the difference in retaining residents or losing residents, and it's a key part of making sure the next generation is ready to run the city of Detroit. So my question to you, each of you, is what are you going to do to improve the education system in Detroit? Mr. Spivey?
I'll be very honest. I know how to stay in my lane. There's a school board, there's an emergency manager, but we have to work with DPS. There was a time when on my council tenure here that the question came to the table, Do we give the mayor control of the school system? And it did not pass, so they are a separate entity. But I think working with our police department and DPS Public Safety, working with our public lighting department and public lighting authority and our general services to make sure grass is cut, homes demolished around our schools, and then having a relationship with our schools. The charter now calls for an advisory council, and one person has to be a young person on that committee. And I take it a step further, having reps from all of our high schools. Again, 2 DPS high schools and 1 EAA high school, and having it relate with the principals. I know half the principals in our district, and I'm looking to meet even more so they can know they have an entree into city government with their city council member, and know that I can go to them and just be a good presence and make sure our community associations galvanize around the schools to make sure they support as they can.
And Ms. Scott, if you're elected, what will you do to support education in Detroit?
Well, I'm a very strong component of education, being that I taught school. I have a combined degree in education and sociology. Our children, as I said, we will have a meeting between the churches every quarterly and the schools. If you look back in history, I hate to admit this because I'm much younger, jokingly, than my opponent. I was the first city council person from King High School under ASBID, East Side Voices of Independent Detroit, as a teenager. So I know that voice, and I will make sure that that voice is strongly heard on our advisory council. It's important, too, that we have relationship with the principals because they have autonomy now under this new administration. But we must have a strong relationship with the superintendent or whoever the title is. I don't know what the title is anymore. But they will respect me because they know I walked in their shoes. And I will present a voice that's strong. Sometimes it may be visceral, more than factual, but then we'll get to the facts.
All right. As a state representative, name one thing that you accomplished that improved the lives of the people of your district.
Becky, that's a setup question. I'm sorry, Mr. Spivey. Bettie Cook Scott went to Lansing on 2 bills. The community elected me without any other support to repeal that Driver's Responsibility Act and I went there and I worked 4 hard years on it, and part of it was repealed. The Driver's Responsibility Act, no proof insurance, people, it's back to being a ticket. And proper plates is back to being a ticket because Bettie Cook Scott went to Lansing. Also, you can be on a payment plan for the 2 years that you have to pay that draconian fee. That only happened when Bettie Cook Scott went to Lansing. That's that 105 votes that I was talking about. All the Democrats and all the Republicans assisted me to get that done for the city of Detroit, but preferably for the whole state of Michigan, repealing part of the Driver's Responsibility Act. Took money out of your pocket, but now it's going to go back in your pocket.
All right. Now, see, we're fair here. Councilman, tell us one thing that you accomplished during your tenure on city council that improved the lives of Detroiters.
Sure, I'll add one that I led and another initiative that I supported. Over in the 4th District, we have persons who often like to use their homes as businesses, and you need a license to do that. And the people came to me and said, look, we need to amend the ordinance for people having sales in front of their homes. And we changed, I amended the ordinance to make sure that your home is your home and your residence. If you want to have a business, make sure you get a license for it. And so there's a period of 3 days where you can have a sale in front of your home, garage sale. After that, 90 days before you can have another. Supported the Secondary Employment Act, where our police officers can work a second job to support businesses around the city of Detroit. Also from the city of Lansing, from our legislature, supported the opening of our PLA, Public Lighting Authority. That's one of the main issues we hear at our evening meetings or at the council meetings, period. We have no lights. And so in March, we supported that. And I'm happy to hear that plan will be coming out soon, and have 2 more laws in law department any day waiting to come out before our term ends this coming December.
I'd like to, can I add one more? Because you asked for one and he named several. DTE, that was another reason that sent me to Lansing. Right now, DTE is more consumer friendly. There's a shut-off legislation that I assisted in. I was the original sponsor and it got changed, but people gas and lights cannot be shut off, especially if they have a disability or a medical need, because Betty Cook Scott went to Lansing.
Thank you both. We've got time for just one more question, Vicki.
Yes, it's an easy one, quick one. Betty Cook Scott, who are you supporting for mayor?
Betty Cook Scott is supporting Betty Cook Scott as a council member from District 4. Betty Cook Scott is going to assist whichever mayor that's in place. Most of you know that I'm an ex-police officer. I was promoted under Benny Napoleon to sergeant. I can work with them.
But you're not endorsing him.
I was also instrumental with Mr. Duggan. The Malice Green case, Betty Cook Scott was the police, and you can look at the record. I have a report. I was on duty that day, so I can support Mr. Duggan also. We have a relationship, each one of them.
Councilman
I
Spivey.
think my opponent might have said it best. She said Betty Cook Scott. I'll say Andre Spivey is running with Andre Spivey. And I can work with either candidate, Mike Duggan or Benny Napoleon. I think after this tenure, we all know that personalities need to be removed out of the way, and we are serving for the greater good of our citizens in the city of Detroit. So whomever's elected as mayor, and if I'm elected, when I'm elected in November, we'll have a good relationship come January 2014.
Okay, good answers. Now it's time for each candidate to summarize their candidacy and detail the points most important to them. So each of you will have 30 seconds, and let's begin with Mr. Spivey.
Well, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be with you and my opponent in District 4. I heard "I" a lot today, and "I" is not a word I use a lot in my vocabulary. I use "we." This is our city. We can build it, bring it back together. We can work together. My wife and I have chosen to raise our family, our children here, and to live here, and we love this city. And I'm not going to leave this city, and so I ask for the support of those persons in District 4 to be retained on council and reelected, so I may continue the work that I've begun and work with our new members coming in January 2014.
And now, Ms. Scott.
Well, it's hard to sum it up if you've done 30 years of public service and work in the city. But most people in the community say that I am a person, and I'm going to use "I" again, along with the help. I'm dedicated to the community and the residents. I'm also accountable, and I'm responsible. And I, again, say that I am a survivor. I've survived not being appointed to positions, not given any positions. I know what it means to punch a clock and to be docked after 6 minutes. I don't think my opponent understands that. And as a city council person, I will represent you from the cradle to the grave. I'm a little bit older than I look, but I want to be your next city council person. With your help, you put me in, and you will keep me in public office.
That's all the time that we have for this candidate conversation. And a big thank you to Councilman Andre Spivey and Betty Cook Scott from District 4 for participating today.
And remember, you can find all of these conversations on the myvote.org website. For all of us at Detroit Public Television, I'm Jerome Vaughn.
And I'm Vicki Thomas. Thanks for watching.